February 20th, 2026, 0431 local time. Strait of Hormuz, 16 nautical miles south of Bandar Abbas. The USS Porter, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, is conducting routine patrol operations in one of the most contested waterways on Earth. Her mission: ensure freedom of navigation through the strait that carries 21% of the world's daily oil consumption. It's a mission the U.S. Navy has performed for decades. Thousands of transits, millions of barrels of oil protected. A constant, quiet assertion of international law. Tonight, the quiet ends. At 4:31:17, the Porter's AN/SPY-1D radar detects a contact emerging from the Iranian coastline. Bearing 347, low altitude, fast. The signature matches a Khalij Fars anti-ship ballistic missile, Iran's precision-guided variant of the Fateh 110. Range, 300 kilometers. Speed, Mach 3. Terminal guidance, electro-optical seeker with infrared backup. The crew has 44 seconds to respond. Welcome to War Signal USA. I'm your host, and this is the story of how an Iranian missile crippled an American destroyer, and how the U.S. Navy struck back in just 19 minutes. Let's understand what led to this moment. By early 2027, the situation in the Persian Gulf had deteriorated to levels not seen since the tanker war of the 1980s. A series of incidents over the previous year, the Gravely strike, the Fitzgerald torpedo attack, the Cole ballistic missile engagement, had created a cycle of escalation that neither side seemed able to break. The latest flashpoint was an Iranian oil tanker seized by U.S. forces in the Gulf of Oman 3 days earlier. Intelligence indicated the vessel was carrying weapons bound for Houthi rebels in Yemen, a violation of UN sanctions. The tanker was diverted to a port in the UAE for inspection. Iran called it piracy. The supreme leader demanded the ship's immediate release. Revolutionary Guard commanders threatened decisive action against American forces in the region. Washington dismissed the threats as rhetoric. The tanker remained in custody. On February 17th, Iranian state television broadcast footage of Khalij Fars missiles being loaded onto mobile launchers. The message was clear: Iran was preparing to respond. U.S. Central Command raised the alert level for all naval forces in the Gulf. Additional Patriot missile batteries were deployed to bases in Qatar and Bahrain. Carrier strike groups repositioned to provide air cover. The USS Porter was one of 6 destroyers assigned to patrol the Strait of Hormuz. Her captain, Commander David Reynolds, had been in the Gulf for 4 months. He knew the threat environment intimately. At 4:28, Reynolds was in his cabin reviewing intelligence updates when the first warning came. Iranian coastal radars had gone active along the Bandar Abbas sector. Unusual activity for 4:30 in the morning. He was reaching for the phone to call the bridge when the general quarters alarm sounded. At 4:31:17, the radar operator in the Combat Information Center made the call that would define the next hour. Vampire, 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 bearing 347, range 28 nautical miles, closing fast. Classification: possible Khalij Fars ASBM. Anti-ship ballistic missiles are the nightmare scenario for surface combatants. Unlike cruise missiles, which fly relatively slow and level, ballistic missiles arc high into the atmosphere before diving down at hypersonic speeds. They're harder to detect, harder to track, and much harder to intercept. The Porter's defensive options were limited. Her SM-3 missiles, the Navy's premier ballistic missile defense system, were designed for longer-range intercepts. At 28 nautical miles, the Khalij Fars was already too close for optimal SM-3 engagement. That left the SM-2 in the ship's close-in defenses. At 4:31:23, the tactical action officer ordered defensive measures. All stations weapons free. SM-2 batteries engage inbound ballistic. CIWS to automatic. Deploy chaff. 2 SM-2. Block 3A missiles erupted from the forward vertical launch system. The Phalanx close-in weapon system slewed toward the threat bearing. Chaff canisters launched, creating clouds of radar-reflective material around the ship. The Khalij Fars was 38 seconds from impact. The first SM-2 climbed rapidly, its radar seeker searching for the incoming threat. At 4:31:41, it acquired the target, a small, fast-moving object descending through 40,000 feet at Mach 2.8. The intercept geometry was poor. The SM-2 was designed for aircraft and cruise missiles, not ballistic re-entry vehicles. Its seeker struggled to maintain lock as the Khalij Fars executed a terminal maneuver, a slight course correction guided by its electro-optical sensor. At 4:31:49, The first SM-2 detonated. The proximity fuse triggered 47 meters from the Iranian missile. Shrapnel sprayed across the intercept point. It wasn't enough. The Khalij Fars was damaged but not destroyed. Its guidance system was partially degraded. Its trajectory shifted slightly, but it was still coming. The second SM-2 was 6 seconds behind. It had a better angle, approaching from below as the Iranian missile descended. At 4:31:55, it closed to within 12 meters. Direct hit. The Khalij Fars exploded. But exploded doesn't mean disappeared. The missile was destroyed 1,400 meters from the Porter. Its 650-kilogram warhead detonated in the air, showering the ship with fragments. Large pieces of the missile body, still carrying tremendous kinetic energy, continued on their ballistic arc. One piece, weighing approximately 180 kilograms, struck the Porter's aft superstructure. The impact was catastrophic. The fragment penetrated the ship's exhaust stack and continued into the aft engine room. It severed the main steam line feeding the port propulsion turbine. Superheated steam, 450 degrees Celsius at 600 psi, erupted into the compartment. 2 sailors were killed instantly. 3 more suffered severe burns before emergency systems could isolate the rupture. But the damage wasn't limited to the engine room. The severed steam line triggered an automatic shutdown of the port gas turbine. The ship's propulsion dropped by 50% in an instant. The Porter lurched, her speed falling from 18 knots to 9. Worse, the fragment had also damaged the reduction gearbox connecting the starboard turbine to the propeller shaft. Within 90 seconds, the gearbox bearings began to overheat. Warning alarms cascaded through the engineering spaces. At 4:33:44, the chief engineer made an emergency call to the bridge. "Captain, we've lost the port turbine. Starboard reduction gear is failing. Recommend all stop to prevent catastrophic damage." Commander Reynolds faced an impossible choice. Stop the ship and become a sitting target in hostile waters? Or continue and risk losing propulsion entirely, possibly with a fire or explosion in the engineering spaces? He chose survival. All stop. Initiate damage control protocols. Get me 5th Fleet on secure comms. At 4:34:02, the USS Porter came to a halt in the Strait of Hormuz, 16 nautical miles from the Iranian coast, dead in the water. The next 15 minutes would determine whether the ship and her crew of 281 would survive. Damage control teams worked with desperate efficiency. The ruptured steam line was isolated. The injured sailors were evacuated to the medical bay. The starboard gearbox was secured, preventing further damage but confirming that the ship had lost all propulsion. At 4:36, Commander Reynolds reached 5th Fleet Command in Bahrain. His report was brief and brutal. "Porter is DIW. 2 KIA confirmed, 3 critical. We took a Khalij Fars fragment to the engineering spaces. I have no propulsion. Request immediate assistance and authorization for counterstrike. DIW dead in the water." 3 letters that every naval officer dreads. A ship without propulsion is a ship without options. She can't maneuver to avoid threats. She can't position for optimal defensive engagement. She can't run. And 16 nautical miles away, the Iranian coast was full of weapons that could finish what the Khalij Fars had started. 5th Fleet Command understood the urgency. Within 4 minutes, multiple assets were responding. The destroyer, USS Arleigh Burke, the lead ship of her class and namesake of the Porter's design, changed course at maximum speed. She was 47 nautical miles to the southeast. Estimated time to arrival, 1 hour and 12 minutes. The frigate USS Constellation, conducting patrol operations near Qatar, diverted at flank speed. ETA, 2 hours and 8 minutes. 2 MH-60R Seahawk helicopters launched from the cruiser USS Monterey, carrying damage control equipment and medical personnel. ETA, 34 minutes. And from the carrier USS Gerald R. Ford, operating 380 nautical miles to the south, a strike package began preparations for launch. But assistance was still minutes away. The Porter was alone. And Iran wasn't finished. At 4:41, the ship's electronic warfare suite detected new activity from the Iranian coast. Multiple radar emissions, fire control frequencies. The signatures matched Noor anti-ship missile batteries, the same type that had struck the USS Gravely the previous year. Iran was preparing a follow-up attack. Commander Reynolds had a decision to make. His ship couldn't move. His defensive systems were intact, but his crew was stretched thin dealing with the damage, and incoming missiles were being prepared to finish the job. He could wait for authorization from 5th Fleet, follow proper procedures, let the chain of command make the call, or he could act. At 4:42:17, Reynolds gave an order that would be debated in naval strategy seminars for years. Weapons target the Nor battery at bearing 352. Load Tomahawk Strike Package Alpha. Prepare to fire on my command. His weapons officer hesitated. Sir, we haven't received authorization for offensive action. Reynolds' response was immediate. They shot at us. They're preparing to shoot again. That battery is an imminent threat to this ship. Under the unit self-defense doctrine, I have authority to neutralize that threat. Load the missiles. The weapons officer complied. At 4:44:33, the first of 8 Tomahawk Block 4 cruise missiles emerged from the Porter's forward vertical launch system. The ship had no propulsion, but her weapons worked perfectly. Over the next 47 seconds, 7 more Tomahawks launched. 8 missiles, 8 different approach vectors, all converging on a single target. The Nor Coastal Defense Battery, 16 nautical miles to the north. Flight time, approximately 3 minutes. While the Tomahawks flew, the Porter's defensive systems remained on high alert. The Nor battery might launch before the American missiles arrived. The ship's SM-2 inventory was down to 14 missiles. The Phalanx had 1,100 rounds remaining. It might not be enough. At 4:46, the electronic warfare operators reported a critical update. The fire control radar emissions from the Nor battery had stopped. The Iranians had detected the incoming Tomahawks. They were shutting down, trying to relocate before the missiles arrived. They were too slow. At 4:47:41, the first Tomahawk struck the Nor battery. The missile's 450-kilogram warhead detonated directly on the radar vehicle. Secondary explosions followed as fuel and ammunition cooked off. Over the next 23 seconds, 7 more Tomahawks struck the battery position. The launchers, the command vehicle, the reload vehicles, the communications equipment, all destroyed. When the smoke cleared, the Nor battery that had threatened the Porter no longer existed. Iranian casualties were later estimated at 31 Revolutionary Guard personnel killed. But the Porter's ordeal wasn't over. She was still dead in the water, still vulnerable, and Iran had other weapons. At 4:52, radar detected a new threat, not missiles this time, ships. 4 Iranian Thondor-class fast attack craft had sortied from Bandar Abbas. Speed, 42 knots. Armament, C-802 anti-ship missiles and 76mm guns. Time to reach the Porter, approximately 18 minutes. Reynolds understood the math. His ship couldn't outrun them. His defensive missiles could engage the Thondors, but that would deplete his limited remaining inventory. If more missiles came from the coast, he'd have nothing left. He needed help, and he needed it now. At 4:54, that help arrived, not in the form of ships, but aircraft. 2 FA-18E Super Hornets from the Gerald R. Ford, already airborne on combat air patrol, had been vectored north at maximum speed. They arrived over the Porter with 4,000 pounds of ordnance each, AGM-154 joint standoff weapons, and AIM-120 AMRAAM air-to-air missiles. The Thondor fast attack craft never reached their target. At 4:58, the lead Super Hornet released 2 AGM-154S. The glide bombs separated, extended their wings, and began their 20 nautical mile journey toward the Iranian boats. The Thondors detected the incoming weapons too late. At 5:01, both AGM-154s struck. 2 fast attack craft destroyed. The other 2 reversed course at maximum speed, abandoning their attack run. They didn't get far. At 5:04, the second Super Hornet engaged with 2 more AGM-154s. Both remaining Thondors were hit. One sank immediately. The other burned for 17 minutes before capsizing. Estimated Iranian casualties from the fast attack craft, 48 personnel. By 5:15, the immediate threats had been neutralized. The Porter was still dead in the water, but she was no longer under attack. At 5:23, the Seahawk helicopters arrived with damage control equipment. At 6:18, the USS Arleigh Burke reached the Porter's position and took up defensive station. The Porter was taken under tow at 8:45. She reached Bahrain 3 days later. Final damage assessment: 2 sailors killed, 3 critically wounded. Port propulsion turbine destroyed. Starboard reduction gearbox damaged beyond repair. Aft superstructure penetrated. Total repair cost, $340 million. Repair time, 14 months. The 2 sailors who died in the engine room were identified as Machinist's Mate Second Class Robert Chen, 28 years old. He was monitoring the steam systems when the fragment struck. He never saw it coming. Gas Turbine Systems Technician Third Class Maria Santos, 24 years old. She was conducting a routine inspection of the reduction gearbox. She tried to reach the emergency isolation valve. She made it halfway. 2 names, 2 families destroyed. 2 reasons why freedom of navigation isn't free. The incident triggered a significant escalation in the Gulf. Within 48 hours, the United States deployed an additional carrier strike group to the region. Submarine patrols intensified. B-52 bombers began rotating through Diego Garcia on continuous alert. Iran responded with rhetoric, but no additional military action. The loss of the Noor battery and 4 fast attack craft, combined with the 79 Revolutionary Guard personnel killed, had demonstrated that American warships would strike back hard and fast. The seizure of the Iranian tanker that had triggered the crisis was quietly resolved through back-channel diplomacy. The vessel was released after inspection confirmed compliance with international shipping regulations.